All right, disc gamers. Good morning. Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to Fewell Park. Fewell Park is one of the city of Rock Hill's city parks, and it's actually located less than a half of a mile from Winthrop's main campus. And one thing that a lot of people don't know about Fewell Park is that it was home to Rock Hill's first disc golf course. Don't ask me when it was put in, but this was the first. And I love Fewell Park for a lot of reasons, one of which is it is a great place to learn the sport of disc golf. Something that makes it a great place to learn, the fairways are a lot shorter than some of the more aggressive disc golf courses that we're going to be moving on to a little later on. Fairways are shorter, but there are also lots of trees out here. And guess what that makes you do? It helps you work on your control game, which is just so critical in the sport of disc golf. So today I'm going to give you a little introduction, overview of the sport, since we are officially beginning our disc golf unit. As far as the origin of the sport goes, a lot of people give the credit to the Frisbee company. Back in the 1970s, they created the very first Frisbee golf set. And they basically made a smaller version of what we know as a Frisbee for people to go out in their yards and play with. Now, before we had these fancy little disc catchers, or before there were too many rules and regulations, people just went out and they would pick a tree. And they would kind of determine like the average number of throws they think it would take to throw their disc to that tree, and then they would play the hole. And they would just throw, and they would keep throwing towards the tree, and as soon as they got to a point where they could throw their disc into the tree, that would finish the hole, and they would record their score and move on. So as the sport continued to grow and evolve, on the West Coast what we began to see was they were putting baskets on the ground. So we weren't throwing at trees anymore. They would put these baskets on the ground, and basically you would finish your hole by throwing your disc into the basket on the ground. On the East Coast, instead of throwing discs into trees, we started just putting these wooden poles in the ground, and you would finish the hole whenever you threw your disc into that wooden pole. Okay? So at some point, they decided to put both ideas together, great idea, and create what we now know as the disc catcher. So you can see behind me, we have this metal pole kind of cemented into the ground. About halfway up, we have this metal basket, kind of like a cage-looking basket. And then we have these chains hanging from this top rim down. So to finish a hole with a disc catcher, you're going to throw your disc into the chains. It'll slow the disc down, drops into the basket. Okay? So, really cool how the sport has continued to grow and evolve to a point now where we have a professional disc golf association with a tour of different tournaments that the professionals play in. So, basics of the sport, the rules of the sport. As in regular golf, your goal is to basically achieve a score that comes in under par, okay? So when you hear the term par, it's talking about the average number of throws it would take to finish a hole, or to get from the tee pad to your disc being in the basket, okay? And that is a set number, okay? So my goal is to finish each hole in the fewest number of throws possible, okay? So this is the sport, golf is the sport where those minus numbers are a good thing, positive scores aren't so great. Okay, so what would happen is, instead of like hitting a ball off of a tee, we're going to be throwing our discs from off of a tee pad, or a designated space where you're going to throw off. Okay, a lot of courses are going to have kind of a designated area. Sometimes it's a nice concrete pad that's been poured. That's going to be our tee pad where we throw off from. Here at Fewell Park, just because it's a little bit older, they have more of the traditional, the cheaper version. They just have two posts in the ground that you just kind of throw behind to tee off from. So after everyone has teed off and kind of thrown their discs, what we're all going to do is we're going to move up, and the person whose disc is farthest from the basket, whoever landed farthest from the basket, they're going to throw first. We call them the away player. So we're all going to stand behind them, let them throw, And then we're all going to move up to the next disc that's farthest from the basket. We're just gradually going to work our way to the basket until we're at a point where everyone can putt. And then once everyone has putted, we're going to grab our discs, record our scores, and move on to the next hole. Okay? A little bit more about scoring. You heard me talk about par. So in the game of golf, you know, if you come in with one throw less than what par was, let's say that this hole was par 3, and I have an amazing drive off the tee box, and it lands right next to the basket. Okay? I'm going to pick my disc up, throw it in the basket, and that will be a total of a score of 2, which comes in 1 under par, which was 3. And whenever you come in 1 under par, that's going to be what's called a birdie. Good. Now let's say I had a horrible drive and a horrible approach, and I missed my putt, so I've already thrown 3 times and it still isn't in the basket, but my 4th throw does go in. I have now come in 1 over par, which is going to be called a bogey. Okay? So we're going to record those scores, move on to the next hole, and continue to play. So that's the basics of the sport. We're going to continue to go in more depth and hopefully see some cooler courses here in Rock Hill. But yeah, I hope y'all have a good week.